Hi, folks. Welcome on in. Seven Rivers Racing here in KQEG TV. I'm Dan Dyker, along with my cohort partner in crime, Al Losi, coming off the midway point of the racing season at the La Crosse Speedway. And not only is the heating of the racing warming up, the heating of the heating is starting to race up. It was the past 2 weeks. It's been hot down there.
It was very hot. Nobody had jackets on again. Of course, I think everybody would have rather have been out on the water there a little bit on Saturday afternoon before the races.
Fantastic racing. We told you about, I'd say, what, a month and a half ago, we were watching some of the racing in week 2 and week 5. It's kind of settled down a little bit, but you have about 4 or 5 drivers in each division that are starting to really tighten things up, and they're really starting to distance themselves from the rest of the field point-wise.
They're starting to realize that points are more important than spending money on fixing their race cars, so that's why they're getting a little bit more focused on the championships, the points, or even if you're in 9th, 10th, or 12th place, you want to get up there as many places as you can before the end of the season.
And you know, we talked a couple of weeks ago on the program, when during the season, if you know you're out of the points race, what is the mindset like for the rest of the year? And I know a lot of drivers, they want to get into the top 10 if they know they're not going to win the track championship. Primarily for themselves and their sponsors, they want to at least get in the top 10, so when they look at their sponsors next year or at the end of the season, they can say, we were a top 10 finishing car out of 26 or out of 30.
And I think the word sponsors comes before yourself. I think it's the sponsors that they really want to go to, like you said, at the end of the year. And it is kind of a pride thing. If you're in 10th place, though, you want to be in 8th. If you're in 8th, you want to move up to 5th.
Right.
It's just
same thing when you're racing a car. If you're
a competitor,
you've got 5 laps to go and you're running 8th, you want to catch the guy in front of you because you want to finish 7th.
Exactly.
Well, we had a lot of that going on at the La Crosse Speedway, and we do have a driver update we're going to pass along here in the program as well. Probably the worst crash we've had the entire racing season this year. First one that I've seen in a Thunderstock in many, many years at the La Crosse Speedway. We're going to show you the video here in a couple of moments and update you on that driver. First off, recapping what happened last week, Skylar Holzhausen took a nice fat check to the bank for after last weekend. He ran with some of the best in the Midwest at Elko. It was the ASA Tour Summer Clash 250, 125 lap segments. And we're going to ask our guests on the program today what it is like to actually run in a series like that where you've got to split up 125 and 125. Skylar Holzhausen from Bangor, Wisconsin did it, beat the creme de la creme, and took home a nice check for 10 grand. At Elko. Nice payday.
Oh, it is, and it also goes to show, because of the other drivers that were in this race, what the quality of racing and race driver is that races at La Crosse every Saturday night.
Well, of course, it was nice to see Steve Holzhausen, Skylar's father, get back into a car. He had that horrific crash last year that knocked him out and kind of knocked him sideways health-wise, but he was back. Finished 9th, Steve Carlson 10th. Ross Kenseth, a very unfamiliar outside the top 10 finish, finished 11th. And Tim Schendel Sparta had some problems all through the race. I know they're in the garage this week, really trying to get things hammered away before he hits the track again. Schendel finished 22nd. Kind of unfamiliar for Ross Kenseth in a big race like that to finish out of the top 10.
It is, and it's also rare for Tim to finish that low, too,
right,
in that series.
He's had a really good year so far in and out of the ASA. Of course, Tim putting together some nationwide series races as well. Skylar Holzhausen leads the Rookie of the Year points, 112 better than Joel Thiessen. Championship points, Andrew Morrissey, who finished 2nd in that race, is your point leader. Ross Kenseth is 40 points behind. The next race for the ASAMT Iowa Speedway, Friday, August 5th, and that should be a wide open track.
Should be a lot of fun.
Looking at Wisconsin Dells Raceway Park, a late model went to Dan Lensing, picked up the 40-lap main event through 7 cautions, including 2 red flags to pick up his first win of the year. That can be kind of contentious. 7 cautions, 2 reds. I mean, we talked to drivers at La Crosse that win that say, I just couldn't wait for the race to get over. I felt like it was going on forever. I'd like to sit through 7 cautions and 2 red flags.
I'd almost be worrying if I had enough gas.
That would be one of the big, or overheating, depending upon how hot it was at Dells. Sportsman, that 25-lap main event went to Mike Winters, took the lead away from Rom Grabarski with 2 laps left in that feature event. Kevin Gilding won the 25-lap feature in the Pure Stocks at Dells Raceway Park. In the Bandit division, 18 laps, caution filled, couple of wrecks, but Arnold Preston ended up winning that one. Next up for the Dells, it's Kids Club Night. They will be having their on-track autograph session with all the DRP drivers and rides in the cars for kids. Futures of the Stars will qualify at 4:45, racing at 6:30, and they've had some good races out there this year.
They do, and they do a very good job of keeping the fans involved, and this is another example of that, as the kids get to go on the racetrack and enjoy the feel of what the ride is around the racetrack.
The Crosse Speedway feature win went to one of the Rookie of the Year contenders. Nick Clements picked up his first ever feature in a late model, and that was one happy man afterwards. We're going to show you some video right here. I cannot believe this feature was run. Look how light it was outside still. No lights. It was like 6 o'clock.
It seemed like the whole night there wasn't a single caution. I believe there might have been one caution during the heat races up until the big wreck and the Thunderstocks. But this is the kind of race that it's kind of exciting because a lot of the teams ended up being able to use this as a test session, checking different lines, seeing how the car is working. It should make racing for next week a lot more exciting.
Well, Nick Clements said his car was starting to lose it towards the last 5 or 6 laps. Brent Kirchner saw that and said with a couple of laps to go he thought he could have caught Clements. Teammates Brent Kirchner and Troy Ray finished second and third. Jay Herbst finished fourth, and that was kind of important because he finished in front of Sean Paff. And the point lead now Paff has is only 5 over Jay Herbst, even though both drivers will tell you, I don't really look at the points.
They do.
Oh, yes, they do. North Country Contractors Grand National Sportsman went to Rob Mason. He's had several attempts at winning features over the past couple of seasons, and he finally nailed one down here. He was good. He was rested. He wasn't sick. And once he wrestled the lead away from Matt Inglet, he was off and running. Rob Mason, the Orange Crunch in the 99.
Rob and his father are just such a pleasure to have down in the pit area. Rob's father probably enjoyed this as much as Rob did.
Matt Inglet finished second. Randy Humfeld, your quick-time qualifier, third. Danny Gilster, fourth, your current point leader. And Jared Logging, who started on the pole, rounded out the top 5. United Auto Supply Thunderstocks, a 15-lap feature event. Jason Bolster had to hold on through this one to capture a win away from Bad Brad Worthen out of Sparta. Dustin Bagstad, last year's Rookie of the Year. We've talked about that kid several times. He is one of the up-and-coming rising stars at the Speedway, not in just this division, but I see him running several divisions throughout his racing in western Wisconsin. Point leader Andy Moore finished 4th. Rusty Winchell finished 5th. Now, we're going to go back to this right here. That had to have been one of the worst Thunderstock crashes I have ever seen in the 6 or 7 years I've been at La Crosse, and that was Chris Hines in the Hines 57. Now, I did talk to his father, Roger, on Sunday. They spent until 3 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, in the emergency room. And you see Mary Schill and Drew Krybick running down the right off the bat to make sure he was all right. The update was Hines had 30 stitches put into 2 of his fingers to actually keep him on his hand, and ended up with a broken thumb on the same hand. Not sure what the day was this week, but I know he did have some surgery scheduled and is out for the season. Now, if you watch this, it looked like Nathan White tried to check up. He gets into the back end of Racing Rob Christian. Christian just gives the back end a little bit of a tap, and when he turned around when I called this, it didn't look like he had enough momentum when he hit the tire, but it was just enough that the back end dug in, and you see what the end result is.
Yeah, and mostly the result was from maybe overcorrecting there in the corner. I believe it was a 64. Just overcorrected, ended up hitting the rear end. It was not that hard of a hit into the wall, not that hard of a hit into the tire, but it sure, from a physics standpoint, went and knocked that car right on over onto its roof and on its tires and on its roof.
Roger Hines said he hopes his son is ready to come back for, actually, Kurt said he wanted to come back for Oktoberfest. We're going to see. Obviously, you need 2 hands to drive, and we're going to see if he can do that. Thunderstock Novelty Driver wins. The double spin to win went to Andy Moore and Kayla Steinoff. Coming up, 2 20-lap feature events on Saturday night as part of the La Crosse Interstate Fair. When we return, we're going to bring in a couple of guests here, one that has driven La Crosse and all over the place, and one that is new to La Crosse this year. We're going to talk to 15-year-old Michael Sauter and his father, Jay, when we return on the Seven Rivers Racing Show here on KQEG TV.